Our next speaker is Tasha Freitas. She is the CEO and co-founder of NeedsList. NeedsList is a mission-driven business, and they're also an SV2 impact investee. We made an investment in NeedsList in 2018. I'm going to let Tasha tell you more about NeedsList and their work, but I wanted to share a short summary in their own words, which is, NeedsList is disaster relief for the 21st century, tech-enabled, locally powered, transparent, direct, and run by women. It is my honor to introduce and welcome Tasha.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here tonight because usually I have to stand up and pitch in 3 minutes, and here instead I've got like a whole 10 minutes, and I've got the best theme ever, which is further together and partnerships. And there's no way I would be here without those partnerships, so that's what I'm going to tell you a little bit about tonight. Our partnerships internally with our team, with our grassroots partners, with individuals, with the private sector, and last but not least, with the public sector. But before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about NeedsList and how we got started and what we're up to, because not all of you were on my first Zoom pitch with the whole crowded room. So this past Monday was Rosh Hashanah, and that's the Jewish New Year. And it's a really fitting time for me to be here because NeedsList actually, like our birth was 5 years ago on Rosh Hashanah. I was living in France, and I wanted to do something to help all the refugees that were arriving in Europe. So I asked one of the women who, her daughter went to school with my kids, and I asked her if her mosque was involved, and she said, she came up to me like on Friday morning and said, Tasha, I'm going down tomorrow because I heard there are all these Syrian refugees and they need help right nearby, do you want to come? So normally it's a Jewish holiday and I take off, and I was like, well, what's better and more important than this? So I went with her, and I ended up coordinating all this local aid. And it was really chaotic. Everybody needed different things. The needs were changing day by day. If any of you have worked in crisis response, you know what I'm talking about. And at the same time, I had no way to communicate what was needed. And people kept bringing the wrong stuff. Like, sometimes I do a pitch with this stuffed camel because somebody brought a stuffed camel to help, thinking that would be what was needed. And a lot of it comes from good intentions, and they just didn't know. So I ended up looking online because I have a tech background, and I figured there was like some plugin for our WordPress site, and I couldn't find anything. So I used the wedding registry just to communicate needs in real time. So that's how we got started, and the more I dug into it, I realized that thanks. It's not that I couldn't find it, it's that it didn't exist because we have a super outdated aid system that is in desperate need of innovation. And so our current systems, if any of you have been involved in any of the local wildfire relief, there are daily conference calls that go on for hours. There are Post-it notes in people's offices, there are long email threads, and if you're lucky, you get a spreadsheet. So we're talking 1960s systems for growing displacement, and it just, something had to be done. So that's how, the other thing that we realized was that at the same time, people like yourselves who represented companies and foundations and academic institutions all wanted to help, and they wanted to get their institutions involved, but they didn't know how. So that's really was the thought process behind NeedsList. Thank you. This is a sneak preview of NeedsList 2.0 that we're building right now. So what we do is we give nonprofits, local grassroots nonprofits, the tools to communicate their needs in real time. They're all aggregated into a centralized database and matched with offers of products, services, and cash. So really just kind of a natural marketplace creating efficiency and automating a lot of this matching that's happening with the Post-it notes right now. So we got started formally 3 years ago. We've moved over $1 million of resources in over 20 countries, and today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the partnerships that made that happen. So the first thing I want to talk about is my team. My co-founder Amanda and I knew that from the very beginning, if we were going to make this work, we had to be working in collaboration with displaced communities. And so we have 10 people on our team now. We represent 8 countries. We just hired a man named Javid, who is he's a Rohingyan who was the only person who's ever escaped from the Isle of Manus, made it all the way to Canada where he received asylum, We brought on a guy named Hani, who was a Sudanese doctor working with MSF, Doctors Without Borders, who's now implementing our chatbot project in Uganda. And most recently, our product designer, Sisa, who is not just an extraordinary designer, she joined our team because she's committed to this, because she's come from the Philippines, and she sees the impact of climate change on her home country. Oh, and it's your investment that let us hire some of these folks, so thank you. So at the individual level, this is Ala. When I first started NeedsList, we needed a logo, right? And so I was like asking around and we had no money, and a guy I knew said, my brother is a designer, he can probably help. So Ala was actually in Aleppo at the time. This was 2016, and it was during the siege on Aleppo. And I'm going back and forth with him on Facebook, and he's sending me logos every day. And the whole thing like completely blew my mind. Because I'm like, I've got a US passport, I've got like an Ivy League degree, I'm running a tech startup, and he is living in the middle of a conflict zone, and he's the one helping me. So that was really important for me in understanding like what happens even in natural disasters. Like there's times we all have needs, there's times we can all help, and how can we create that infrastructure to bridge the two? So this on the grassroots level, like the first people and organizations to adapt NeedsList, like they're not the big NGOs, right? Like so we went to folks that can make decisions quickly. And one of them, this is a woman from the School Box Project. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're based in Sonoma County. And when we first started working with them, they were working with children, refugees on the island of Lesbos. And this woman here is holding a defibrillator. They posted that need. It was one of the first needs on NeedsList. And another nonprofit across the island had an extra one in their warehouse. So they brought it over. And it was like, again, one of those moments where you're like, okay, there's something here. We've got something here. And what was important to us there is that it actually wasn't like a donor or a company meeting that need, it was another nonprofit. And we're like, okay, what if we can create a way just for these nonprofits even to start talking to each other? And then the next things. So what was really interesting is we started off really just focusing on refugee aid, and then the School Box Project got hit directly by the Sonoma fires. And they said, hey, Tasha, can we use NeedsList for disaster relief, like for the fire relief? I'm like, we're like a startup, you're supposed to focus on one thing, you know? But we're like, okay, try it. And so it's been really essential for us to work with these really localized grassroots groups because they're nimble and flexible, and they can work with us to help us be nimble and flexible and grow with our users. So that's been awesome. So really quickly, we realized that needs totally outweighed the resources, and we're a marketplace, and that's no good, right? Like you gotta like match supply and demand. So we started working with, thinking about how we could work with companies, and TripAdvisor was the first big company that we worked with, and I really, what you were just saying about taking risks, that's so huge for us, because not just like the first investors, but also like Kayla, the woman who runs social impact at TripAdvisor, who said, yeah, like, okay, they're a for-profit company, and we usually work with nonprofits, and this is like totally different, but we want to work with them. And so now, like, because TripAdvisor joined us and because Kayla made that happen, we've had lots of other big companies work with us, and also TripAdvisor employees have been connected directly to social impact startups around the world for 2 years now, so it's been really exciting. Okay, and last but not least, you knew I would get to the public sector. So I started, my background's in urban planning and public policy, and from the beginning I was like, we can't do this without public sector buy-in, but I also knew that they were not going to be those early adapters. But what's pretty amazing is just in the last couple of months, we've started partnerships with the city, the county, the state level, and literally like 3 weeks ago, we got a call from USAID saying we want to use NeedsList to coordinate private sector engagement for the Bahamas for Hurricane Dorian relief. And if you want to see a challenge, try negotiating with the federal government in the middle of a hurricane. Like, we made it happen. It's been really exciting. Like, the next day we posted the site, and we got an offer of a helicopter, which is really cool, and it's like in the process of being matched right now. So all of that has happened because we tried to be flexible, and we're willing to partner. Okay, so when we started NeedsList, we had like no money, and I'm not a coder, and I actually thought a pitch was just part of a baseball field. So all we really had was a knowledge of the power of partnerships, and that's really why we're here today. So I just want to thank all of you for helping move those partnerships forward, because I think, just for the last slide, please. The reality is that the scale of the problems that we're facing as a society is, as you said, is completely daunting. I actually was in New York last week, and I sense that dauntingness, and I don't know if that's a word, but also that hope. But we're looking at a climate emergency that is at a point that we're not just talking about 1 billion people being displaced, we're talking about extinction. And so there is no way that when we're facing problems like this, we can do it alone. We absolutely have to have those partnerships at every level. So thank you for letting us be here and to work with all of you, and we hope we will continue to do so, because I don't think we can afford not to partner. So thank you.